Hi everyone, it's Nancy Weinbeck, CEO at Bayview. Happy to be back with some messages for you. For those of you who moved into Bayview prior to around 2016, you know that Bayview looked very different than it does now. Well, we just found out we won an award in Senior Housing News, which is a national publication, an industry publication in the senior living space. For the category of renovation and repositioning, we won first place. And we're pretty happy about that. And we owe a debt of gratitude to Mary Courts, who led us through that project, and Rice Burgess Miller, the architect that designed the new Bayview that you live in today. Some even better news to report, of course, is that we're in week 4 of our surface testing. And again, we just got certification that all of our swab testing came back negative, which is very reassuring. And we are doing weekly testing as required by the state in skilled nursing for our residents and staff. And again, all those tests came back negative. So we keep getting good news, which is especially reassuring in this time with very high infection rates and a lot of senior living communities having COVID within their walls. We are still very lucky and also very diligent. And so far, whatever everyone's been doing is working to keep us safe. So thank you. Because of how well Bayview has weathered this pandemic, we are starting to get noticed in the media. And we were recently contacted by a number of very prominent media outlets to cover Bayview as we go through the vaccination process. And Joel's going to talk more about the vaccine that's coming up next in this video. But just a heads up, you may see Bayview in the news, and for good reason. And if we get confirmation of those stories, we will certainly let you know and send you links to those stories. So stay tuned for more on that. Next up is going to be Joel to fill you in on where Bayview's at with vaccinations and COVID in general. Following Joel's talk, I am going to do a brief review of the satisfaction survey. We've been promising those results to you, and we'll be sharing them at the end of this video.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy. It's great to be back here in Bayview and for everybody to see. Joel Smith here, Health Services Administrator. If it's been a while since you forgot that I'm here, I'm the man behind the plan when it comes to all COVID-19 things related. You're going to be receiving a lot of information very shortly in the weekly memo about COVID-19 and kind of where we're at. I know that a lot of the things that we talk about is scary. And I want to assure everybody that my intent of being able to write in the memo is not to alarm people or to make people afraid of what's going on, but it's to inform people. It's to let people know the facts. And so to start with here, I want to be able to share some facts with you about what our current situation is with COVID-19. Okay, so as you can see, a little bit after Thanksgiving time, there was about 1,142 cases on average per day over a 2-week period of time that was occurring with people becoming infected with COVID-19. Those are confirmed cases. And if you want to put this into perspective, you can see that in March 31st of 2020, there was about 174 cases. That's towards the beginning of the pandemic. And then in the middle, right around August 1st or July 31st, about 158 cases per day was occurring. So 1,142 cases is quite big. When we look at the infection rate per 100,000 people, on average, right now, we're sitting at 422.3, which means that out of 100,000 people, 422.3 people per day are becoming infected with COVID-19. So that's, as opposed, again, putting this in perspective, I feel like Ross Perot, for all of you that remember Ross Perot with our little pointers and things like that, just giving you the raw data, April 1st, we had 69.9 people per 100,000, and in August 1st, we had 142.2 people. So you can see at 422, we're below the state average of 490, which is great, but we're still quite high. The state goal of infection rate is 25 cases per 100,000 people. So that kind of puts it in perspective as far as where we're at right now. These numbers are scary. There's no two ways about it. They are frightening numbers, but it's the data that we're talking about. And I'm going to be able to tell you a little bit more about our strategies of how we're mitigating this and why we're so confident of our ability to remain COVID-19 free. One of the greatest things that happened to me just the other day was a media outlet had called us to talk to us about COVID-19 and Bayview's experience. And the power of being able to say that we are still COVID-19 free, it gave me goosebumps. It was unbelievable. And so that is the best thing that we can always be able to say here in our little world, our community of Bayview, is that we are still COVID-19 free. And I'm knocking on wood saying that because we've definitely done an amazing job all around. This is a total team effort. And when I'm talking team, I'm not just talking employees, I'm talking you as well, our residents out there who are doing an amazing job. Our strategy of screening, our strategy of testing the residents and the staff on the skilled nursing facility, our screening, our strategies of quarantining, our strategies of surface testing, and our strategies of continued education of COVID-19 and the strategies on how to combat COVID-19. Also our strategies of our personal protective equipment and the use of universal source control and infection control and hygiene. All of these strategies are mitigating the risk of exposure for all of us here at Bayview as we continue to work through these processes. And with all of this, it gives us a really bright hope and a bright future for what we're doing. And even though those numbers are daunting, we've got the things in place to be able to help all of us remain safe and healthy. Lastly, vaccinations. Just to dovetail off what Nancy said, we are preparing for vaccinations. There's a lot of information that's coming out, obviously, about vaccinations. We want to make sure that we provide you, much like we provided with the data, we want to also provide you with as much information as we possibly can so that you can personally educate yourself on the risks and benefits of vaccinations for COVID-19. The vaccinations, what we do know is that the vaccinations will be coming by CVS. We've contracted with them to be able to provide vaccinations for the Phase 1A people. A lot of work and a lot of effort went into trying to get everybody at Bayview vaccinated. Unfortunately, there's going to be a segment of people, primarily the independent level residents, that are not going to be able to be vaccinated within the first Phase 1A of the vaccination process. I really tried very, very hard with CVS and with Leading Age to be able to advocate for everybody here. We had some wins and some losses. The wins was that all staff within Bayview are going to be able to be vaccinated as part of Phase 1A. The loss, of course, was that the independent level residents are being excluded at this point. I'm still working with Leading Age and with CVS to see if there aren't just a couple of exceptions that we can make in there, and more of those details will be shared when they come. But suffice it to say that the positive news is that eventually we will all have the opportunity to get vaccinated. It's going to be coming soon. It's just not as soon as we all want, because we all want this pandemic to be over for sure. And this is definitely one way to be able to put an end to the pandemic, is through vaccination. All right, so with that, guys, and the vaccinations, there is things coming out about vaccinations. It seems like every 5 minutes there's something new. And so I will do my best to be able to answer any of the questions that you have. If I don't get back to you right away, please understand it's because we're trying to sift through all of this data and all of this information and trying to make sense of it all so that we can present it to all of you in a non-confusing fashion, if you will, because there is so much information. It can be quite cumbersome and quite confusing, and some things contradict other things. And so really trying to stay on top of this is kind of a daunting daunting task, but it's certainly something that is necessary, and I enjoy being able to share that information with you as soon as I possibly can get it. So just bear with me, and as time rolls on, we'll all know more and more about this information. We'll do our absolute best to keep everybody informed. With that, I want to be able to say, have a wonderful holiday season. I look forward to seeing all of you around here and staying safe and healthy. I plan on staying safe and healthy too, and I just am so grateful for everything that everybody does in their efforts to fight COVID-19. Thank you so much, and I'll turn it back to Nancy.
Thank you so much, Joel, for that update on vaccines and COVID. And I just want to say, I think Joel's getting a complex because he's our strict COVID head police officer here. And I just want Joel to know how grateful our community is for the work he's done at that level to keep our whole community safe. So thank you, Joel. Thanks for your patience on this video. We're up to our last portion, which is the resident satisfaction survey. We're going to focus on the independent resident survey for this video. On the screen, you're going to see our response rate from independent residents at Bayview compared to the response rate for nationwide independent living residents that took this survey at all senior living communities. And you can see that Bayview's response rate was 78%, while the national average for independent living is 46%. And so that's a very high rate of return for Bayview. We were told by the survey account representative that was an outstanding participation rate, and clearly we are more engaged, at least with filling out these surveys, than other communities are. So great job. We are thrilled that so many of you took the time to respond. The next thing you're going to see on the screen is what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. So for what are your strengths, they listed the 3 questions that we scored the highest on. And for what are your weaknesses, those are the 3 questions we scored the lowest on. So for top 3 questions, our strengths are overall, how would you rate the staff? So our staff are rated very high. Would you be willing to recommend this community to a friend or relative? Again, we scored very high. And CEO is easy to approach with questions and concerns. I don't want to take credit for that. That really speaks to our leadership team. And according to our account rep on this with ServiceTrack, the survey company, that they take that to mean our entire leadership as well. Next, let's look at the 3 questions we scored the lowest on. Nutritional balance of the meals, opportunity to continue the same number of activities enjoyed before moving here, and problems fixed in a timely manner. These top scoring questions and lowest scoring questions really need some context. So I want to share with you a graph that compares Bayview's response, average response, to the national average response for independent living, because I just think that gives some good context. It certainly doesn't take away the areas that we need to pay attention to, but it does help to understand a little bit more where we fit in the scheme of things. So the next thing on your screen is a report card which shows a green bar for each question that you answered on the survey. On that green bar, there's a dashed yellow line, and that yellow line represents where Bayview scored. And then there's a solid line, a darker line, that's not dashed, and that solid darker line represents the industry average score for that question. So for example, you can see the top question on the list, in recommending this facility to your friends and family, how would you rate it overall? We scored higher than the national average. And as you go down the list of questions, you can see for many of them, we scored much higher than the industry average. Where that changes, where the yellow dashed line comes before the solid line, meaning that Bayview scored lower, you can see its maintenance of the building, including the apartment, and problems fixed in a timely manner. Now, those are issues that we have addressed with Marty, and he is working on his team to make some changes in his department to make sure that these issues are addressed. If you continue to go down this report card and look at these items, you can see some other areas where we scored below the national average, whether independent living residents. Activities was lower. Notification of activities, we scored a little bit lower. And community delivering on its promises, we scored a bit lower. So those are all pieces that we're looking at. Now, what's interesting is going back to what are your weaknesses, one of the questions we scored the lowest on was nutritional balance of the meals. But if you look at this report card, even though we scored lower on it, we still did comparatively better than the national average. So, context helps, but we do take these the responses seriously, and we are focusing on the areas where we scored the lowest and where we do need to make some improvements. So the last thing on our dashboard is what are people saying? And what this section is an aggregate of the comments on the survey. The longer the bar, the more comments there were made for that particular topic. If it's a green bar, that means they were positive comments, and if it's a red bar, that means they were negative comments. So you can see from this that we had the most comments, and they were very positive, on friendly staff, good residents, and good place to live. Where the negative comments came in on communication issues, food quality concerns, menu concerns, and facility issues. So that speaks to the what are our weaknesses, where we scored the lowest. So it makes sense that that's where the comments were more negative, and we are taking that very seriously. So what the leadership team is doing with this survey results is each department has been analyzing their areas, and we are making plans for those areas so that the improvements can be made that address resident concerns. And our hope is that when you all fill out this survey next year, you're not going to feel the need to express negative comments on the same issues, because hopefully we will have done a really good job addressing them. So we take these results very seriously, and it helps us be a better community. Overall, we scored very well, and the account manager was really surprised at how well we scored, because the other communities, and there are thousands of independent living residents that filled out the same survey that you did, and we did, for most of the survey, we scored substantially higher than the industry average. So he was impressed, and we feel good. But we clearly know there's work to be done. So we're grateful again for the time and effort you put into the survey and for taking it seriously, and it's helping us to build a better path forward. We believe we're going to see you on a video before New Year's, but I do want to take this moment to wish you all a Merry Christmas. And we are filming this on the last night of Hanukkah. So for those of you that celebrated Hanukkah, I sure hope you had a wonderful holiday. For the rest of you, for whatever holiday you might be celebrating, I hope you have a good one. We know this is not the way we want to celebrate the holidays without being together with our families, but we so appreciate everyone doing their part to keep our community safe. And the good news is the vaccine's around the corner. There is hope. And I sure hope that next year we'll be able to be with our loved ones when we get to the holiday season again. So blessings to you all, and we will see you next week.